Okay, this story, the previous story was a little out there for some audiences don't need to listen to. Uh, part story 8 was a little. We're going to part 2, story 9 is called The Marked Man. The Marked Man. Uh, some of these words might be offensive to some of my little audience, but I'm just reading what the book says. I'm not going to change the words to be. This is the book is from 1953, so it's a different time. So you gotta just get over it. Okay. Part 2, story 9, the marked man. Cain was terrified for what he had done. When he saw his brother's body collapse upon the ground, he wondered what had happened, for he had never seen a man die before. Then, as awful truth dawned on him, that Abel was dead, dead like that lamb that on the altar, which had been the cause of all this trouble. His anger turned to fear and remorse. He couldn't go back home, not now. He couldn't face his father and mother, not after doing this awful thing, this dreadful thing. Nor could he face his brothers and his sisters, for they would be angry with him and perhaps would want to kill him as he had killed Abel. He would have to run away as far as he could go and never come back. That's what sin does. It separates love, one's wreck happiness, drives peace from the mind, and joy from the heart. As Cain fled from the scene, he heard God call to him, "Where is thy brother? Where is Abel thy brother?" "I don't know," Cain said Cain, as though he could deceive God. Then instantly, I am then insol in INSOLENTLY. Insolently, am I my brother's keeper? Oh, in other words, smart aleckly, he said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" He said it smarty. Insolent. That's what it is. Insolent. There's no illustration. Okay, then we go to this. What hast thou done? Gonna be peppered with King James. God said, "That voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground." Of course, God knew all the time what had happened. Nothing is hid from him. He's a witness. He had a witness the dreadful deed. He's seen Abel's blood upon the ground, and it cried for justice. Indeed, in the silence of helplessness of death, Abel cried louder than if he had been alive that something had been done about this great wrong. Cain had broken the sixth commandment of God's holy law, "Thou shalt not kill." But by his pride, his jealousy, his anger, his selfishness, his lying, had broken all the other 9 as well. He had to be punished. But how? And now art thou cursed from the earth, said God. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. Oh, King James. Oh, it's going to be peppered with it. In his mercy, God did not take Cain's life, but he sent him away from his home, from all who had been so dear to him, just as he had sent Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden when they had sinned against him. The lad was now a fugitive, forever running for his life, a vagabond, a tramp, who never dares settle down. My punishment is greater than I can bear, cried Cain, as he realized what his sin had cost him. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive, a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. Poor Cain pictured himself as forever living in constant fear for his life, always fleeing further and further from home, to which he would never return, out of pity, out of pity for his youth, who had been so dear to him from babyhood. God set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Just what the mark was the Bible, okay, just what this mark was the Bible does it say. It may well have been a change in his face that sin, remorse, and worry always brings. Whatever it was, from the moment on he was a different man, the first marked man of history, marked so that he might be caught and punished by by his punishment, that he might be spared. The mark does something else. It marked Cain, his wife, his children, and all who should ever meet him, how awful are the results of sin. It was a warning to all never to follow that evil course which had brought so many sorrow upon him and his loved ones. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And yes, there is an illustration, a little watercolor. And it's down at the bottom. Of Cain leaving. And we got more of the story. Did you ever stop and think what it meant to Adam and Eve? In one day, they lost two sons. Abel was dead, and Cain, their firstborn, on whom they had depended so much, and on whom they had pinned their hopes and their future, was an outcast, hurrying toward the unknown lands towards the east for fear of his life. What a dark day that must have been. So since that awful night when they had taken their last look at Eden and seen the angel with the flaming sword bearing their return, had they felt such utter loneliness and despair. Well, might they have been Well, might they have been wondering whether life was worth living and what was the use of hoping anymore. Yet hope came again to their poor and sad hearts, and as so happened, it came in the form of a baby. For it was at this time that Eve had another little boy. And the Bible says, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For God, she said, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. So they started again, believing and hoping that this might be the baby through whom the promised seed would come. And this time, though they might not know it, they were right. And yes, there is a little watercolor of Seth. Adam and Eve with Seth. And I'm going to watercolor because it's a little thing. And that was part 2, story 9. And we'll go to the next story in a little bit.